Over the last 9 years of Tolarian Community College, I have reviewed many Magic the Gathering products, but among those products, one of, if not my most favored, has been the Commander pre-constructed deck, where, for a reasonable price, you can get a deck that is ready to play out of the box and will allow you to sit down with friends and have a good time in the format. But it also contains many things from reprints to brand new card designs that established players can appreciate. I have always called these a product for everyone, at least everyone who plays or is interested in playing Commander. But over the years, the price of a pre-constructed deck has gone up, now reaching and sometimes exceeding $45 each. So why buy off the shelf when you can just build your own? Presented here is Tolarian Community College's next installment in the Build Your Own Precon series. Fresh off the factory line, today's Precon is Death and Metal, a pre-constructed graveyard and artifact creature deck throned by Necron Dynasty's second in command. The goal of the deck is to discard, mill, and sacrifice key artifact cards, then utilize our array of abilities and reanimation strategies to engage production on a lethal board of attacking automatons. The commander of this deck is Imhotep, the Stormlord, who costs less than $2 to buy but delivers a lot in the way of value. A 3/3 legendary artifact Necron for 2 generic and 2 black mana. The first of Imhotep's 2 abilities is Pharaon. Whenever one or more artifact cards leave your graveyard, create 2 2/2 black Necron warrior artifact creature tokens. Imhotep is also the Grand Strategist, where at the beginning of combat on your turn, another target artifact creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains menace until end of turn. But the best thing about this deck is that, like all decks in my Build Your Own Precon series, it costs under $45 to buy. That's a stark contrast to the fact that if you wanted to buy the official Wizards of the Coast Precon this commander hails from, you'd be spending upwards of $85 to get it off shelves today. Though if you do feel like spending more than $45, I'll go over some high-priced upgrades that you can add to this deck at the end of this video, and in this video's description, I have deck lists to both the budget and fully upgraded version. I really hope you give this deck a try. I think it's one of our most powerful and interesting Build Your Own Precons so far. To optimize Pharaon and fill our board with Necron tokens, the majority of the deck's synergy will focus on 2 primary game actions: getting artifacts into the graveyard and getting artifacts out of the graveyard. Let's take a look at all the various productive ways we'll be getting artifacts into our graveyard first. But first, let's just talk about how I would like to give you $15 to spend on whatever Magic the Gathering cards, products, packs that you want, or anything else on Whatnot, sponsor of today's video. That's right, when you use my code www.whatnot.com/invite/Tolarian College, you get $15 to spend on Magic the Gathering products, accessories, whatever that they're doing on Whatnot and other non-magic stuff. But yeah, it's magic stuff. It's $15, so just go get your $15 worth of stuff today. Whatnot is basically like if eBay and Twitch had a baby. People live stream items for sale at buy it now prices or auction them off, and do a lot of giveaways, like one I'll be talking about in just a moment. If you use my code, you get $15 to spend on any of these things. Go into any auction or buy it now that you want, and if you create an account using that code, you get that $15. Wow! Apply it towards a larger purchase, just pick up a couple packs, maybe a Precon of your own. Or just join me on April 19th at 10 a.m. Pacific, where I'll be giving away all of the new Commander decks coming out in March of the Machine, as well as some other cool Commander surprises, just given away for free for hanging out with me while I chat about Magic the Gathering in my stream. So you can check that out or use my code to get $15 to spend on whatever Magic the Gathering products that you want on Whatnot. Thank you, Whatnot, for sponsoring this video. Let's begin by discussing how we fill our grave. Discard, sacrifice, and mill. We get to enjoy the versatility of all 3 effects in mono black, giving us endless outlets to fill the graveyard. Tortured Existence, Key to the City, and Trading Post are our best discard sources. Not only can we discard artifacts at instant speed with these cards, but Tortured Existence is a one-stop shop, putting artifact creatures into our grave and getting them out of the grave in a single motion, all while triggering our commander's Precon ability. Key to the City has the stellar bonus of making our larger threats unblockable and acts as a source of card draw. Finally, Trading Post remains invaluable as it gives us an avenue to return the discarded artifacts to our hand. Another one-stop shop similar to Tortured Existence, I guess we've got two-stop shops, which adds just a bit of consistency to our deck. Zephyr Boots, Mask of Memory, and Armix Filigree Thrasher let us discard only in combat, making them marginally less reliable, but giving us plenty of upside in exchange. Zephyr Boots gives us greater evasion, and both it and Mask of Memory draw us cards. Armix is an invaluable, repeatable source of removal who can take out highly dangerous and even indestructible threats. But out of all of this, Ill-Gotten Gains is my favorite discard option, as it allows us to not only bury our entire hand, but also select the best 3 artifacts in our graveyard to recur immediately afterwards. One corner case scenario we may appreciate is actually needing to discard cards down to hand size at the end of turn. This would require us to have 8 or more cards in hand. To help make that happen, we have some picks dedicated purely to card draw. These include Pointed Discussion, Atrocious Experiment, Funeral Rites, Sign in Blood, Night's Whisper, and Monumental Corruption. Sign in Blood and Night's Whisper are the cleanest deals. Pay 2 mana, pay 2 life, get 2 cards. If our turn 1 was land, pass, then casting either of these spells on turn 2 puts 8 cards in our hand, yielding a critical outlet for early game discard that will pay off later. Pointed Discussion, Atrocious Experiment, and Funeral Rites are a little bit like Night's Whisper, but attached to bonus effects we appreciate, with the first 2 giving us a small opportunity to mill, and Pointed Discussion granting us a blood token for future discard. Monumental Corruption is our most explosive and risky option, but will also give us the greatest discard on our end step. With it, we may have any player draw 1 card and pay 1 life for each artifact we have in play. Filling the grave doesn't end with just discarding. We also have cards like Discerning Taste and Ransack the Lab, both of which allow us to look at the top few cards of our deck, put the best to hand, and send the rest to the grave. Underappreciated in regards to mill, we also have Sivirus Nightmare Speaker. Sivirus allows us to tap and sacrifice an artifact or creature to mill 1 card per opponent. Our opponents must then decide to pay 3 life lest the milled cards return immediately to our hand, likely triggering Imhotep's Precon ability. But what exactly are the cards we want in our graveyard, you might be asking? The answer is quite simple. Giant undead robots. More at home in our grave than in our hand, this deck includes a multitude of terrific Titanium Titans, sure to make our opponents tremble. Scuttling Doom Engine, Noxious Gearhulk, Terror Ballista, and Metalwork Colossus charge their batteries underground, awaiting to arise and wreak havoc in the combat step. Scuttling Doom Engine and Metalwork Colossus make great targets for Imhotep's Grand Strategist trigger, with Doom Engine becoming an 8/8 menace that can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, and the Colossus becoming a blunt yet effective 12/12 menacing weapon. Noxious Gearhulk and Terror Ballista don't quite pack as powerful a punch in combat, but both include crucial interaction, giving us ways to destroy target creature. Our 2 remaining oversized weapons are a cut above the rest, and are all-stars at exterminating our opponents on a budget. Phyrexian Triniform and Triplicate Titan are not only huge threats in their original form, but upon death, each yield 3 artifact creature tokens that continue to forward our game plan in a perfect way. I have to take a moment to gush about Triplicate Titan in particular, which not only is a fine target for reanimation and sacrifice, but alongside Imhotep in combat can become an utterly absurd 11/11 flying vigilance trample menace. So our graveyard is full of giant undead robots. Excellent. Now we just need some good, honest necromancy to return them to the battlefield. Like many mono-black decks, Reanimation is a paramount component to our game plan, and luckily, budget Reanimation cards are far more available and efficient than one might expect. So what exactly is our Reanimation package? Well, its primary cards are encompassed by Exhume, Persist, Dread Return, Black Sun's Twilight, and Incarnation Technique, each of which are always pivotal plays when we cast them. Exhume and Persist, for instance, cost an almost unbeatable 2 mana to cast, with Exhume allowing our opponents to reanimate one of their creatures as well. I actually find myself reveling in this effect, however, as it can be used politically, where you can offer 1 or 2 opponents who have a particularly spicy card in their graves a mutually beneficial Exhume under the agreement that they leave you alone for a while. Dread Return is our next cheapest reanimation spell at 4 mana and can be cast twice in one game thanks to its flashback ability. Sacrificing 3 creatures may feel like a steep flashback cost, but with the amount of Necron tokens we are producing, we will absolutely be able to pay it with little concern. Black Sun's Twilight is a versatile new card that doubles both as reanimation and a removal spell all in one. It's really amazing this card is not going for more. I guess it's just under the radar, but we'll take total advantage of that. The spotlight for budget necromancy, however, must go to one of my absolute favorite cards in Commander, Incarnation Technique. With a single cast and demonstrate, we not only get a political tool to share with our opponents, but 2 fully reanimated threats for the price of 1. Using this spell to bring both Canoptech Tomb Sentinel and Noxious Gearhulk into play, alongside 4 Necron Warrior tokens, feels like piloting a tank, as we use Tomb Sentinel and Gearhulk's Enter abilities to blast away the greatest threats in our path. Our deck also has an assortment of foot soldiers who are capable of reanimating themselves via their own inherent abilities. This ensemble of self-reassembling robots includes Triarch Praetorian, Razorlash Transmogrant, Chronomancer, Ashnod's Harvester, Scorpek Lord, and Royal Warden. Though these creatures grant us various abilities such as card draw, Anthem buff, and even more Necron tokens, what matters most, of course, is that they activate Imhotep's Pharaon ability when unearthed. So what are our win conditions and key synergies? Thanks to our efforts filling and reanimating the grave, our board has become a legitimate threat that goes both wide with Necrons and tall with giant undead robots. But even with this accomplished, we may still find ourselves needing a way to puncture through our opponent's defenses for the KO. This is where equipment such as Cranial Plating and Vorpal's Sword come into play. Cranial Plating grants equipped creature +1/+0 for each artifact we control, and can be attached for 2 black mana at instant speed. The buff on this equipment can easily exceed 10+ damage, which is a buff so strong that we can even threaten to knock out an opponent with commander damage. Vorpal's Sword is our second win con weapon, coming with an 8 mana ability that will destroy an entire player upon combat damage. Should the menace from Grand Strategist Imhotep be insufficient evasion, we can just grant our equipped creatures unblockable with Rogue's Passage, or Key to the City for successful assassinations. What's more, overrunning opponents is no longer a win condition for only green players. With creature anthems like Dragon Throne of Tarkir, replicating overrun effects is how we will win many of our games. That's because Dragon Throne of Tarkir is a 4 mana legendary artifact that equips for 3 mana and gives equipped creature Defender, as well as pay 2 and tap. Other creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is this creature's power. With Dragon Throne equipped to Phyrexian Triniform, we can tap it to give our entire legion +9/+9 and trample, emulating a devastating power usually found in green staples like Overwhelming Stampede and Pathbreaker Ibex. Furthermore, a trifecta of Signal Pest, Chief of the Foundry, and Scorpek Lord on the battlefield will grant our attacking artifacts a combined devastating +3/+1 menace buff, sealing the game in one fell swoop. But let's take a minute now to look at upgrades for the deck. For those enjoying reanimation and artifact creatures, this is your chance to pick up staples that will find a home not just in this deck list, but in many reanimation and artifact decks across the format. Our first upgrade is, of course, Reanimate, the sorcery our entire archetype is named after, and the most powerful reanimation spell of all time. At 1 black mana to cast, Reanimate returns any creature in any graveyard to the battlefield, all in exchange for life equal to that creature's mana value. Absolutely absurd absurd value. Continuing on, Buried Alive is our next auto-include, a sorcery that for 2 generic and 1 black mana allows us to put our 3 most impactful creatures in the deck directly into the graveyard. In this very same vein, Entomb is an instant that lets us put our single most impactful card directly into the graveyard for 1 black mana. 3 more upgrades that happen to come directly from the progenitor Precon include Biotransference, Canoptic Spider, and Their Name is Death. Biotransference energizes token production by creating additional 2/2 Necron warriors for every artifact that we cast. Canoptic Spider is a solid 4/4 flying attacker for 5 generic mana that also happens to be a card draw engine. And Their Name is Death is easily our preferred board wipe, as the non-artifact destruction will be drastically one-sided in our favor. 2 giant undead robots will round out our Precon upgrades in the form of one of my favorite cards of all time, Wormcoil Engine, and the equally intimidating Phyrexian Flesh Gorger. Both of these mythic Phyrexian worms have game-changing lifelink attached, and both are stubborn board presences. Wormcoil Engine produces more artifact tokens upon its death, and Phyrexian Flesh Gorger has a ward cost so steep it's pretty much hexproof. In order to put these upgrades in, you're going to have to take cards out, and the cards I would ditch are Infernal Idol, Clay Revenant, Mindstone, Bloodforged Battleaxe, Zarek the Silent King, Tidy Conclusion, Metalwork Colossus, and Darksteel Juggernaut. This deck rewards indulgence. It tells us to make our sacrifices early game so that we can take over the world late game. It tells us to callously shed our greatest assets, yet promises us greatness in return. It is the cold heart of colorless artifacts and the twisted soul of black magic in steely, wicked harmony. And it can all be yours for $45 should you choose to purchase it for yourself. Decklists to both the budget and upgraded version in this video's description. And while you're at it, why not check out our other videos in the Build Your Own Precon series. I used an upgraded version of Thrun up against Small Ant, Bloody, and Alias V, and spoiler alert, well, I won with Thrun, and it was a deck that was much less expensive than the $1,000 plus ones it went up against, and it still won. Took out 2 players in 1 turn, in fact. Check that video out if you haven't already. Check these old deck lists out if you haven't already. Build your own Precon if you haven't already. And get $15 to spend on Magic the Gathering cards, packs, Precons, accessories, or some other crap like bobbleheads when you use my link on Whatnot. Just go to whatnot.com/invite/Tolarian College and you'll get a $15 credit to spend on anything in any stream on anything you want on Whatnot. Or join me on my stream and maybe I'll give away I will give away. Maybe you'll get one of the commander decks that I will be giving away on my stream in April. You can check that out, but in the meantime, just get $15 and get some Magic cards, and then you don't have to ever do anything. Just take the $15. I don't care. I don't think Whatnot cares either. Just sign up. It's a numbers game or something. I don't know. It's $15. There's worse. Whatnot. There's worse. Sponsor of this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
It's one more commander game with 1 more mana, and we're all playing what we think is our quickest commander. Move to declare attackers.
I don't want to have to say it again. Kill Ken first.
If you really want to make me suffer, you have to fight me behind the Arby's.
If I really want to make you suffer, I'll make you eat at Arby's.
Yeah.
Blake, I'm just going to go out in a ball of flames. You know what?
You're in green.
I'm mono red at heart.
I'm gonna tap my Piper. She's gonna sing a little song, and Dawnglade Regent's gonna come in.
Shake my fist to the sky.
Are you being mana screwed over there?
Yes, in a land deck.
Welcome to Fast Magic, where we search our libraries for longer than the turns take.